Hey guys, what is up? Zero here. Welcome back to Doki Doki Forward Momentum. So, in the last episode, we've confirmed that Kamuko is not dead. She's not dead. Apparently she did, maybe she moved. I don't think it was confirmed yet. We just know she's not dead, right? We just know she left.
Was it confirmed that she wasn't dead?
Yeah, because they talked about she left it somewhere, like she left the book. So it's like it was confirmed she didn't die.
Oh.
Like
Okay.
that was as most that was confirmed, I'm pretty sure. But we don't know what happened to her. We don't know if they just like straight apart as friends, if she moved.
They
Who
just
knows?
kind of glossed over
If
it.
she's
Yeah,
she's
she
lost.
left it here and then left it at that, yes.
If she's fucking lost, we have to find her.
She got kidnapped?
Also,
She
between
is
you,
a hostage?
also I don't know about you guys, but if you look at the chat on screen, some of them are saying they'll subscribe. So if you subscribed already, I don't know. I'm just saying, seems like chat kind of wants you to. I mean, I'm not one to say to listen to other people, but sometimes other
Look,
people.
there's
have
a magical 6 that wasn't there before.
Yeah, suddenly we've unlocked episode 6. We beat multi-man melee under 5 minutes.
You left your GameCube on all night and you unlocked
Yeah.
episode 6.
Yes. So let us proceed. I'm not an idle person. I'm sure that feels really out of place to say, but especially so late, but it's something I like to clarify. Because, no matter who I talk to, everyone seems to think I'm an idol fan. The sort of person who obsesses over stage girls, buys all their songs, collects their photo books, and stalks their social media. Maybe I exude the presence of an idol otaku, or my interests would seem to line up perfectly with those kinds of people that it's natural to make that assumption. The truth is, the opposite, actually. It isn't fair to say I dislike the media surrounding idols, though. Their songs are fine enough, they're pretty, though that's only due to the excessive amount of effort their agencies put in, and the dancing is captivating. I just don't like their characters. Their public personas, carefully crafted to entice the lonely and desperate. I can't stand them at all. Anytime I see an idol on stage or online, I can't help but think about how much effort they're putting into keeping their act together. And once I start thinking about it, I notice all the small details that give away the uncomfortable reality. Their constant smiles, their songs about love, the outfits meant to insinuate their slender legs and frames. It's all so artificial. There is, of course, the more emotional side as well. While it's uncommon, and idol breaking down all of a sudden isn't unheard of. It's only natural, being required to remain so happy all the time, being forced to be this perfect, unreachable person. It'd get to you. So agencies search for those strong-willed women capable of withstanding such immense pressure. After all, the stronger the woman, the less likely they are to break down. Ergo, the less of a risk they are to the brand, to the money. I used to wonder how such greedy people can exist, how people who'd sacrifice their emotions over cash came into being. However, after thinking it over, I've come to the conclusion such people don't exist. Rather, the industry preys on the ignorance of their talent. But this is all stuff idol fans know. No one sensible pursues an interest in an idol without the knowledge that they're just putting on an act. And the cruelty of the industry is common knowledge. So, each idol fan has silently agreed amongst themselves to ignore these facts. Rather than arrogance, it is a deliberate decision of apathy. Yet, I've never been able to accept such blatant fraudulence. Maybe there's just something wrong with me. Some trait I lack that allows me to enjoy something that many others do. I'm sure there's a me out there, in the countless worlds that span the multiverse, that adores everything about idols. The me that gushes over their candid smiles and alluring dresses. The me, a better me, who was able to forgive their disingenuous behavior. But I'm not him. And so, I'll always be looking from afar at those sorts of people. wondering how they're able to enjoy such obvious insincerity. And the whole time, one thing will be swirling through my mind. Idols really are the worst. Chair. You ever just upcline your chair? What's like the opposite of reclining? Inclining your chair? Is that what it is?
I guess so.
Pulling up your chair?
Yeah.
Being the chair? Why are you so quiet? What the fuck happened?
I don't know.
Let me turn you up.
Okay.
Ah. As the bell rings, I collect my things and watch as students slowly step out into the hallway. I can feel the slow dread of the school year creep up on me with each passing bell. Don't get me wrong, he's a nice dude, but all he does is sleep with alcoholics and sluts. Although, those aren't mutually exclusive, I guess. Used to be such a hard ass, too. We'd have to drag him outside every time we hung out. As the 1 month mark approaches, the difficulty in assignments begin its rapid incline. And, just like every year, I've begun to feel an increasing amount of apathy towards completing them. Such is the cycle of life. Thinking over it, the only difference between this year and the last few was my obligations to the literature club. Speaking of which, I toss my bag over my shoulder and begin walking towards the club room. What the fuck? And then he was like, tell me your kinks so I know what to do to you. And I'm sitting there like, I have a boyfriend? You wouldn't have this problem if you stopped talking to those kind of guys. I know that, but like, it's fun to see what they'll say, you know? Uh-huh. I'm telling you, I was in control the whole time. Right, and it was your fully conscious. I can't know why I'm saying consensus, not a consensus. How many people did you ask about your decision? It's your fully conscious decision to show all the guys in our class your baby photos. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a little odd, sure, but wait, this isn't me. Whose baby photos were they? Stepping outside, a number of students slowly shuffle down the halls. There's another part of the cycle. The shift from after-school stampedes to slow trickles of students. As the year progresses, the excitement that once filled the school's hallways at the final bell becomes a much more subdued, but still hasty shuffle. It's like some sort of unconscious acceptance of fate. We'll just be back here tomorrow, so why rush? Fridays are still horrible, though. I've never been especially good with crowded halls, so having to squeeze myself past people is making me a bit uncomfortable. And then there's the awkward shuffle from deciding which side of the hall the other person is going to use. At times like this, I wish the Sayori were with me. I know ahead of time that she'd be busy, but I still feel the need to sit around and wait for her to show up. I wonder if this is what Stockholm Syndrome is like. As I'm nearing the stairs, a large group of guys come out of the bathroom at once. They just peeing together. Peeing with the boys. A pungent smell clings to them, and I scrunch my nose as they walk past. I don't know if they were peeing with the boys. Wait, Monica, turn me down. I can slightly hear myself. I think Monica just BRB'd without actually being here. Without muting. Well, now we have to wait. And now I have to mute her on Streamlabs, and then we'll remember when she comes back. Some things never change. What the fuck were they doing? Why the fuck do they smell? I don't want to know what the fuck they were doing. I feel like they weren't just peeing with the boys. I feel like they were peeing on the boys. You say something? No. Opening the door, a familiar scene lays before me. The club room is totally empty, with no signs that anyone's been here since Friday. Well, empty aside from Yuri sitting near the front. who immediately notices me and flashes me a smile.
Hello, Secretary.
Hey, you're early as always.
My last class is close by. I'm usually here just as the room's being unlocked.
I see. Oh, yeah. Reaching into my bag, I pull out Yuri's water bottle. You forgot this.
Oh, so you did have it. I was worried when I realized I'd left it behind.
It means that much to you, huh?
Well, it's just an average bottle, but it was a gift.
Oh, alright. Yuri takes the bottle from my hands and places it into her bag. I find a seat next to her and we begin talking just like we had the week prior. It fills me with a small sense of happiness to have Yuri speaking to me so casually. Though she was also pretty friendly from the start.
By the way, do you know where the others are? Did Monica have to cancel the club again today?
I don't think so. She's probably just late again. As for Sayori and Natsuki, I won't worry about them.
Oh?
Sayori texted me earlier. Apparently she's going to make sure the imp shows up.
Oh, well, that's good, but now that you've said it's Sayori tracking her down, I'm starting to worry.
That's completely warranted. Rather than confirm her fears, I decided to move on to something else. At least her persistence is good for something.
She's very passionate about this club.
Yeah, maybe too much though. It's exhausting trying to keep up with her.
You think so? I find it invigorating, personally. Having someone with so much enthusiasm is nice. I've never met anyone like her before.
You give it some time. It'll start to wear on you. Yuri holds in a small giggle. As the two of us continue talking, Monica walks into the club room. She takes a quick glance at us before taking a look around the room.
Is it just you two today?
Speaking of Monica, welcome back, miss. You forgot to mute.
Oh?
Yeah, both times, mind you. When you came
Why
back,
put
you
my
forgot
mic
to mute
up?
when you left. You didn't mute you should just mute yourself on Discord. I don't know why you don't do
I
that.
can't! Like,
You remembered
I
your
have parsec
you
open.
remembered your thing. You said you remember the thing to free your mouse and then it frees your hotkey.
no, yeah, I know. That's not that I have to minimize out of the thing.
Didn't you
and I
say
have
you
to
have a
click
small
mute. I
window?
can't do that quick enough.
You should have a small window open that you said.
Oh my god.
Because I mean, clearly your up thing doesn't work. Also, the whole thing was actually I needed you to turn me down because I was echoing off of you.
The up thing used to work. I don't know why it doesn't anymore.
I don't know.
Can you hear things or like what?
Yeah, like I could hear. Well, no, I muted you on Streamlabs, but I couldn't even hear anything. I just didn't want them to keep hearing me echo.
Oh.
They can hear you now. When you
There
came
you go.
back, I muted you. But yeah, I was like, I muted you. We couldn't even hear. I couldn't even hear anything. But yeah, you didn't mute.
Okay.
Okay. Just unplug
I
your
thought I
mic
did.
every
I thought
time.
I
you
thought the
leave.
mic, putting the mic up, because when the thing came here, it was like, yeah, put your mic up, and it mutes it entirely. Like, clearly that's not the fucking case.
I don't know. I mean, see, that's kind of the problem with those types
It
of
used
mics.
to work.
That's the problem with those types of mics. I don't know why they don't just give you a button. Why they have to be all fancy and be like, well, when you put your mic up, it automatically mutes. Like, why do they do that? That shit's like...
I like my first headset where I can literally just click the button on the back and it'll mute.
That shit's like bound to fuck up. Like, I don't know why they do that. Like, that's obviously going to fuck up.
I even make sure it's up all the way. Like I make sure it's up all the way before I leave. It just
I
doesn't
don't
work.
think Parsec lets her alt-tab.
It does.
Oh, then do that. Do alt-tab and then click your mute hotkey.
But it takes too long. That's like the exact same as minimizing the window.
I mean, do whatever then. Do whatever works.
I have my Chrome window open, so it's fine. I can just do it like that.
Do whatever works faster.
Is it just you two today?
Nah. Sari's out. Probably dragging Natsuki down the hallway. They'll be here soon enough.
Well, it's good to know we'll have 5 members again, I guess.
Monica walks over to the teacher's desk and places her bag next to the rolling chair. Turning back to us, Monica takes a moment to watch me and Yuri talk before chiming in again.
You two sure are close. So I did miss something on Friday.
Eh? Monica giggles at my flustered reaction and walks over to me to whisper into my ear.
I can make sure the others leave you two alone if you want.
I'm good, thanks though.
Aw, you sure?
The more she insists, the less insistence I'm able to put up. Though I'm definitely better about it now.
Don't be so tense. I'm just teasing a bit.
Yeah. I look over towards Yuri, expecting her to be nervously playing with her fingers or awkwardly inching away from me, but... she seems to be deep in thought about something. I decide not to disturb her. Monica stands back up and walks over to the door, taking a look down both ends of the hallway.
I hope the two of them are alright. They seem to be taking a while.
I'll be fine. Probably. I can't think of many ways that Sayori could cause too big a scene searching for Natsuki. You'd be surprised! She could just shout, Natsuki! That doesn't make the possibility zero, though.
Should we go look for them ourselves? At the very least, we'd be able to find Sayori and have another meeting without Natsuki.
That doesn't sound like such a bad idea.
We can, but one of us should stay here in case they drop by while we're...
Monica starts to turn her head towards us to respond, but something in the hall seems to catch her attention, and she completely freezes up.
What in the... Something wrong, Monica? Oh, hey, Monica! I found our last member! Look!
All of a sudden, I hear Sayori's voice resonate from far down the hall. Natsuki's distressed cries follow.
Sayori, let go of me!
Monica jumps back from the doorframe, just in time for Sayori to come firing in from the hall, carrying Natsuki in her arms in front of her.
I caught a Natsuki, guys!
Sayori comes to a stop in the center of the club room, lifting Natsuki up as if she were showing off a prize.
Let me down!
The girls seem at a complete loss on how to handle this situation. Monica seems to be somewhere between reprimanding Sayori and be too bewildered to move a muscle. And Yuri is barely able to hold in her laughter. I, on the other hand, make no attempt to hold myself back and instantly begin laughing at Natsuki. As expected, her anger increases exponentially, her face darkening to a deep crimson. Her kicks and squirms become even harsher as she tries to fight her way out of Sayori's cobra-like grip. Sayori continues to laugh at her flailing before slowly letting her down onto her feet. Natsuki seizes the opportunity.
Ow! Natsuki, that hurt! Good! Why the hell did you do that? Do you realize how embarrassing that was? We passed with like 20 people! I thought you would have just ditched again if I didn't. Then I wouldn't have been hanging around the halls. Would have just gone home.
Natsuki continues to berate Sayori with a stream of angry words and retorts. Sayori slowly retreats into a ball as if it'll help defend her against Natsuki's wrath. But the whole time, she keeps a playful smirk on her face. Natsuki slowly gives up, trying to change Sayori's mind with words, and stops to huffily turn around and pout.
Whatever. You're not listening anyways. Just don't do it again. Okay.
What a flimsy promise. Monica finally speaks up, walking over to Natsuki, then places a sympathetic hand on her shoulder.
We're glad you showed up today. Though I guess I don't have much room to talk since I was gone on Friday. Yeah!
Sayori cuddles up to Natsuki.
It was lonely without you around. Sayori, you're too close!
Natsuki goes over to Monica for help, but she's already begun to sort through her bag, possibly trying to think through today's activities. She glances over to Yuri, whose only response is nervously smiling back. So, with no escape in sight, she relents to Sayori's affection and simply waits for her to back off. Oh no. Poor Natsuki. She just had to accept it and call it a day. This is what we call a good club meeting. I don't know if this is a good club meeting. Poor Sayori. I mean, poor Natsuki. This song doesn't have a name as far as I know. The file is just called Natsuki Panic. Did you just find that in mod audio of the DDMC like fucking a Discord server? Because surprisingly enough, there is some good music in there. Is what Bug showed me. There is like a good amount of free to use music from there, which is why it's funny when like mods use like copyrighted stuff or something, or like where people get mad that like their mods can't use copyrighted music. And it's like, they're like, well, our options are very limited. And it's like, I don't know, man. In the fucking Discord, there was a lot of audio in that mod audio section. Like, there's a lot of free to use stuff. Like, I feel like people just aren't looking well enough. Also, oh god, thank you for the 5 gifted, Jack Doodle. I appreciate it. That was just very random. Thank you. But yeah, finally, we can have a club meeting where everyone is here. Everyone's here. Monica, Sayori, Yuri, the pink one, MC. We're all here. Except Kamuko. She was never in the club. But for how long? That is a good question. Let's see how long we can keep everyone here. The pink one, the purple one, the blue one, and Monica. Slowly, the club returns to its usual self. Not long after Natsuki escapes from Sayori's hug, Monica calls us to attention.
Alright, you 4.
No, it's still missing something. She's just trying to... She'll get it eventually.
Since we had to cancel on Friday, we're going to spend today making it up. I hope you took the extra time to read more of the books we picked out. Of course, you don't have to be finished. Instead, I just want each of you to share the experience of reading something outside of your comfort zone with each other. Did you discover something new about your interests, or were your previous assessments mostly correct?
As professional as always.
Well, I am the club president. Should I, like, act somewhat formal? This is just a school club, Monica. You don't have to force professionalism around us. Yeah, we're all friends here.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Sayori. I throw Natsuki a side glance before looking back towards Monica. Okay, come on now.
I'll take that into consideration.
I was actually about to bring that up. It's funny how they brought that up. I was actually about to bring that up how... It is interesting how in this mod, the way the club is presented is that as if it's like a class. Because I actually was going to bring that up, so I find it funny that the mod brought it up before I did. Because I was like, yeah, it's kind of strange how it's like most of the time, I feel, or at least sometimes. Because, I mean, other mods do that too. It's like, did you see like different interpretation of how the club is? Like, some people make the club, Monica treats the club more like it's how it's a class, and they have like assignments and stuff, besides just, well, poem reading. But there's also some clubs, some people's interpretation of the club where it's like a club. You just, everyone just kind of shows up, hangs out, and discusses literature. So it's like, it's a little interesting. It's interesting to see different mods with their different interpretations. The club is more organized here. Yeah, I was gonna say, it's more of an organized thing than how some people do it. And like I said, it's interesting. Why are there assignments? It's stupid. I mean, the base games club had assignments, technically, but they weren't really assignments. They were just kind of activities. There's a difference between activities and assignments. Activities is like, you don't have to participate. While assignments, they're kind of like, no, you have to. You kind of need to keep on topic, sort of the point of the club. I was like, it's interesting to see what people's dynamic is. Like, me personally, I think my personal interpretation of the club would be place to hang out, and they sometimes have activities. I feel assignments are mandatory in clubs. They're really not. Clubs are mandatory to have an assignment. I don't think anime clubs at schools have assignments. I don't know what assignment you'd really have. Yeah, clubs just have activities. He says would be as if he isn't making a mod. Okay, Monica. I had a Smash Bros. Club at my school. Have I found everybody a fun assignment to do today is literally in the song lyrics. Yeah, but it's like a very loose definition of assignment. Because like we said, look in the base game. What assignments do they really do? The only assignment they do is, yeah, make sure you make a poem. Clubs are pretty chill. It was a horrid downfall from not organizing too much. My own literature club fell apart due to no organization participation. Yeah, I was about to say, there has to be some organization, obviously. You can't just have no organization. There has to be some. All clubs will have some. It's just, like, I think what I meant to say was, it's interesting to see how some mods show how different the organization is in said clubs. Like, is there too much organization, or is there too little? We gotta balance that out. Wait, you actually had a real literature club? I think my school had a real literature club too. Literature clubs aren't that common. I mean, not aren't that kind of aren't that uncommon. They're pretty common.
I'll take that into consideration. Anyways, does anyone want to go first?
Despite all that talk about being friends, everyone's confidence evaporates upon Monika's request. Natsuki looks especially nervous.
All right, how about you, assistant?
Huh? Wait, why do I have to go?
No reason. I just picked you at random.
Don't try to convince me when you're smiling like that. Natsuki pokes me with her foot under the table. I throw a quick glare before slackening and turning towards Monika. Alright, well, it was okay, I guess. I feel hesitation wrap its hands around my throat as I open my mouth.
Oh, come on, assistant. Isn't there more you can say about it?
You aren't about to tell us that you didn't read it, right? I did read it. It's just... The entire group has focused their attention on me, with varying degrees of expectation on their faces. Sarah and Monika seem genuinely curious, while Natsuki looks like she's waiting for me to make a fool out of myself. Yuri, on the other hand, just gives me a patient smile, probably expecting an analysis on a similar caliber to the one last week. It's impossible not to try with so much pressure. I groan internally as I force my brain to construct something more substantial. The whole appeal of tragedies is seeing how the plots unfold and the anticipation of what sort of terrible things will happen, right? But these stories are pretty old, and a lot of their twists have become cliqued and predictable, so it wasn't hard for me to guess most of the first two act plots. Plus, these old stories are more plot-driven rather than character-driven. While I don't mind having two-dimensional characters, it makes it really hard to care when bad things start happening to them. I guess you can get some sort of shed and fraud from it, but I wouldn't say it made up for the lack of substance. As if it didn't really know what I was saying for half of that speech. But it seems to have been an acceptable answer for Monika, who smiles sweetly to me as I turn away, mostly in embarrassment. Okay, oh no, I can't put my suspension of disbelief back a little too much here. He can't say he feels as if he doesn't know what he's saying, but then say a lot of this. Clearly he knows what he's saying. That was a little too descriptive to pull the, I don't know what I was saying, but I felt like I did pretty good. Like, that's a little too much for me to go off of the whole, he got lucky. Possession, someone possessed him. Someone possessed that man. Schadenfreude. Like bug possessed. I was like, yeah, that was a little, I feel like his answer was a little too descriptive for it to be too, like, oh, he got lucky. Like, no, that was a, he knows what he's talking about at that point. So, yeah. Siri silently claps for me as Monika moves on to the next victim.
So, is there... I'll go next.
Everyone's caught a little off guard by Yuri suddenly volunteering. Maybe she discovered some newfound confidence watching me embarrass myself? Can't do any worse than me, I guess. See, again, it's kind of weird, because it's like, he did really good. What is he even talking about? Like, what's he on about? Why is he Sayori rain clouding me right now? Man's rain clouding me. Yuri takes a deep breath before beginning.
I wouldn't say I had a hatred towards romance stories before, but there was some prejudice that caused me to overlook them for a while. However, after reading one of those stories fully, I found there was a lot more depth to the characters and story than I anticipated. Each person acts believably, despite most of them having an eccentric personality. It's not difficult to write unconventional characters, but it takes a great level of skill to take a character like that and make them feel authentic.
Harry ends up finding her confidence almost immediately, in complete contrast to her demeanor last week. The entire club seems pretty stunned by this development. Except Sayori, who just looks like she's putting all her energy into focusing.
Sure, you can mostly attribute that all to the author rather than the genre. But I've found myself wanting to read even more romance stories regardless. I wonder how many good stories I've missed out on.
Harry looks a little sad as she says that last part. She's too passionate about reading.
If you ever need some recommendations, I can help. I'd appreciate that.
Aw, that's cute. MC's always down on himself? I don't know. I feel like this mod, he's a little too down on himself. I feel like he's been too... I feel like if I were to give a complaint to this mod, I think it would be that. MC's a little too down on himself in this mod, to the point where, like I said, to some points where it borderlines Rain Cloud Sayori. Like, I understand that obviously it's to make it that he isn't too full of himself, but sometimes it gets a little like, okay, MC. like, it gets a little too much. Tears.
I'm glad you've decided to open yourself up to new experiences, Yuri. Now... Oh, me!
Sayori quickly raises her hand, seemingly bridling the excitement that Yuri has given her. She reaches down to her bag and retrieves her book.
Alright, so...
Sayori abruptly stops talking, as if realizing something crucial.
Sayori?
Something up? Natsuki prods Sayori from across the table. This seems to be some sort of trigger, as tears begin to slide down her face. Sayori? What's wrong? Everyone in the club is struck with panic as Sayori's tears continue to fall for seemingly no reason. Natsuki, in particular, seems unnerved. I, on the other hand, have already figured out what's wrong with her. Sayori places a firm hand on her shoulder and looks straight towards her. Doesn't say anything, simply continuing to cry silently and quivering as she forces out another stream. A small smirk creeps its way onto my face. It's okay. You can tell them. That book, it was
awful! It was so scary that I kept having to stop after every page! Plus, I was reading it at night! And that scared me so much that I went around and turned all of the lights in the house!
The girls all stare at Sayori with a mixture of relief, disappointment, and restrained anger. I can't help but snicker slightly, both at Sayori's non-existent horror tolerance and the expressions of the girls. I'd probably feel a little bad for the verbal abuse she's about to receive if it wasn't my electric bill that she hiked up.
I didn't even reach chapter 2 before I got tired and passed out. But then I kept waking up from nightmares.
And you made me stay up all night with you.
I couldn't sleep all weekend. Yuri, why did you choose such a scary book? I don't remember giving you a story like that.
Come to think of it, what's scary to Sayori is probably akin to a cheap horror movie for Yuri. Water and oil, these two.
Whatever!
Natsuki suddenly stands up and points an accusatory finger towards Sayori.
Just don't cry out of nowhere like that next time! Your reaction was very misleading. Why am I in trouble?
Sayori finds herself the target of the club's anger. She looks to me, trying to signal for rescue, but I avoid her gaze by pulling out my phone and scrolling through it.
Alright, you three, let's not start a fight.
The two of them back down instantly, making it clear that they weren't that angry to begin with. Natsuki remains fairly tense, though. She did seem the most worried. If she were always this cute, she wouldn't have worse girl status.
Since you're so energetic, Natsuki, why don't you go next? That's... I thought it was alright. Is that it? Well...
Natsuki's hands tighten in a fist as she struggles to articulate her thoughts, and her face slowly becomes more and more strained.
Did you not read your story? No, I did read it. It's just... Did you read it all in one night, then forget it after you fell asleep?
I can't believe you got on to me for not reading when you're the one who slacked off.
Shut up!
She suddenly lets out a burst of hot air.
I read it all and I thought it was terrible, but he took all my points. I couldn't think of anything else to say.
Don't pin that blame on me.
Come on, Natsuki. You don't...
And you don't need to be so defensive about not having other points. We got assigned the same genre because we had similar tastes. It was inevitable that we'd have the similar opinions, right?
Whatever.
Ugh, you're making it impossible to be nice to you. After accidentally speaking over her again, look over towards Monica. Eh? Monica quickly recovers from whatever it was that bugged her and draws her attention to her by clearing her throat.
Ahem. I'm glad that each of you participated. Even if the experience wasn't worthwhile in your own eyes, I hope that it was a nice change of pace for each of you. Now let's... Wait a second. Didn't you also choose a book? Shouldn't you share your own experience before we move on to anything else?
Monica smiles nervously as she turns to us. Drop kick her. No, we're not drop kicking Natsuki. If anything, to be fair, if anything, one thing I do like about this is that both MC and Natsuki are at fault when it comes to both of their arguments. Like, they're both definitely as bad as each other. I like how MC's reaction to Natsuki as a character is very realistic because Natsuki as a character... Fuck. It's fucking chat keeps moving up. Because Natsuki as a character cannot exist in real life. Everyone would hate her. I suppose, to some degree, it's realistic, but obviously the rest of the club still likes her. So it's like, it's not too realistic. Yeah, because, yeah, children. Yeah, basically, MC and Natsuki act like children. I was like, so I do like how neither of them are really in the right, and they're both just kind of childish. Because, like, Natsuki makes fun of him unfairly, and then he makes fun of her unfairly. And they just kind of go back and forth. Yeah, but Natsuki's acting like a bitch. And MC is acting like a dick. I mean, it's just kind of, it's both the same way. Like, I know we want to side with MC because he's from our character, he's from our perspective, but it's like, you have to realize there's times where he's literally being unfair too. It's and it's like, I can realize those moments. Like, he's not always in the right. Bitch and dick, the dynamic duo. The crime-fighting team that no one asked for. Fucking Redditors. Yeah, they're just a bunch of Redditors. Monica smiles nervously as she turns to us.
Well, I didn't have any time to read my story, actually.
Yuri doesn't seem surprised by this confession. She looks like she was expecting it.
This weekend ended up being extremely busy, so I had almost no time to rest, much less time to read. I'm really sorry, everyone.
She opens her mouth to say something, but Natsuki interrupts her.
No big deal. You said yourself we didn't need to have anything ready. I didn't even get too far into my story to like basically ad-lib my speech.
You got away with lying, dwarf. How did you still manage to screw it up?
Wait, who are you calling a dwarf?
I wonder who I could possibly be referring to.
Well, you're going to be referring to my fist in a second.
Natsuki and I glare angrily at each other, both waiting for one another to make a move before we strike.
Please don't get into another fight, guys.
Sarah manages to pry me away from my standoff, and the club quickly resumes its usual focus. Monica doesn't seem to have much to say, though, as she nervously scratches her cheek while we stare at her. I'm starting to think Yuri doesn't... I'm starting to think we might have to worry about another, conflict in the club. Because, there's obviously already MC and Natsuki's conflict. There's Sayori and Yuri's kinda mental conflict, one-sided conflict, because it's just Sayori not really liking how close MC is to Yuri. But I'm thinking Yuri is having a conflict with Monica. It's weird. It's like a line. Because I'm like, well, besides Natsuki and MC's, well, that's back and forth. But like, Sayori has a conflict with Yuri. Yuri, I think, is having a conflict with Monica. Monica doesn't have any conflict with anybody, as far as I can tell. But it's like, yeah, it's like no one's really having one back and forth besides MC and Natsuki. Wow, it's that all these personalities don't mix together very well sometimes. They all mix together very well. What are you talking about? I don't actually don't agree with what you said, Monica. What do you mean they don't mix together very well? I actually don't really understand because I mean like I was saying because I'm like I don't think that's why there's a conflict. I think there's a conflict because other things happening around. Like Monica's whatever secret Monica's holding, whatever this thing that's keeping Monica busy is distracting her from being able to do all this stuff, and Yuri isn't a fan of it. Which, I mean, is just a character trait that Bugs mod added. That wasn't really a character trait Yuri had in the base game. It's just a character trait the mod added. Which, again, as I've mentioned before, it's fine to add character traits to characters in your story as long as they're believable traits. And Yuri having this trait is believable. I guess it's not their personality, it's just the things happening around them. Yeah, it's just things happening around them. This is standard setup for the cast because it works well for comedy. Yeah, I was about to say, there's added traits to them to make them not get along because them all not getting along is for the comedic aspect of the mod, I guess. Monica's a drug dealer. Maybe she is. We don't know yet. She could be. Monica's a vigilante. This is actually the vigilante crossover. There's two Monicas. They just switch out. They just switch out and they go to the club. It's like the Olsen twins. They're switching them out and you don't even know which one you're talking to. Does MC have a fedora? He might. I wouldn't put it past him. He definitely does. New forward momentum theory. Does MC own a fedora? That's the biggest theory. Monica doesn't seem that much to say, though, as she nervously scratches at her cheek while we stare at her.
That was the only activity I had planned for the day. You're free to stick around for a bit, as long as I'm still here. I'll be at the teacher's desk, getting work done if you need me.
We all nod in confirmation before moving the desk back to the usual positions.
I'm a sharpshooter.